Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we're doing another reviews and ratings episode where I review and rate all the different games I've played in the past 2 weeks with friends and family and even solo. Today we've got 8 different games on the slate that I'm going to be talking about, giving a short overview of each of the games, reviewing it, and finally giving it a rating. And like I said, we've got 8 different games today. We're going to start with my least favorite and go into my favorite game. And with that being said, let's just jump right into it for this week. We're going to try to go through this pretty fastly. First game on the slate is Deep Dive. Deep Dive is a very fast-moving, push-your-luck style game where you are playing as penguins and you are diving down depths. And there are 5 different depths that you can dive into. Well, you have to start out from the top, and each time you're going to flip over a token. And if it is a food token or a rock, you can either choose to take that food token or rock back with you and your turn's over. If it's a predator that you flip over, it turns over automatically. If it is a food token or a rock token, you can choose to not pick it up and go to the next depth and reveals one from there. And again, you can choose to, keep going, keep going, keep going. The further down you go, the points get higher and higher. If you do bring these food tokens back that are worth points, they are colored as well. There are 3 different colors. If you have all 3 different colors of these food tokens in a row, you get to score all 3 of those food token points in full. If you have a row that just has 2 different colors, then that row is only worth half the points. And so you're encouraged to go further down deep, but you're also encouraged to spread out the different types of colors there are in your collection. And this one's going to get a 6 rating from myself. I thought it was fine and everything like that, but it's so fast that for a push your luck game, I don't feel the tension of it. And if I do bust, it's like I don't really even care that much. Whereas in like a game that's a little bit longer, when I'm deciding if I want to push my luck, I have a little bit of tension. This one I'm like, okay, flip, 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 flip. Oh, I busted. Okay, your turn. And literally the turns can take 10 to 20 seconds a lot of times. And so I thought it was fine. It's usable. There's nothing extremely wrong with the game other than I just think it's too fast of a game for a push your luck game. So yeah, 6 rating for a Deep Dive. Going to the next game, we have Dead by Daylight, the board game. This is based on the video game Dead by Daylight, where one player plays as the killer and everybody else plays as survivors. If you're the killer, you're trying to go around and basically kill all of the opponents in this. If you are the survivor, you're trying to move around this board and finding all of the generators and then fixing those generators and then finding an exit and leaving. So it's very, very similar to the video game, which I've never played, but I've watched quite a few people play it. So I know that it gives you that vibe. It's very similar thematically to those. And each of the survivors has a special ability. All the killers have different special abilities as well. At the start of each round, everybody's going to pick one of their movement cards and put it face down. And then we are going to flip over these cards, and that's where you're going to move this turn. So you're going to program your movement. So the killer's trying to guess where you're going. If you're not the killer, you're trying to guess where he's not going, and you're also trying to go to these generators to fix them up. And when you're fixing generators, you're just rolling dice, and there's like a critical success, there's just regular successes, and there's failures. And you're just trying to put 3 tokens on these generators in order to fix them. Once you fix 4 generators, you just have to find the exit, and then you have to have 3 successes for the exit in order to win the game. And I had a good time playing this game. I like the characters. I like the character player boards that you get with this game. The miniatures are pretty decent. And it's going to get a 7 rating. The thing that brings us down a little bit is the board itself, actually. The board is so plain. And for a game that you want to feel like very thematic for and get that horror sense, the board is just basically just a big giant black slab, and you have different rooms. And, it's very, very basic. It almost looks like it's a prototype board because there's nothing on it that, would enhance my experience. And the board actually detracts from my experience. But the experience itself is actually decent. The turns are really fast. It's a fast moving game. And if it wasn't for the board, this would get a higher rating. But as it is, it's going to get a 7 rating. Going on to the next game. The next game is a cooperative game. This is Lord of the Rings Adventures to Mount Doom. And I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. In this game, it is actually a roll and move game. And you are playing as the Fellowship. It is a cooperative game, but nobody is playing as a single character. And I'll say right now, you might as well just play this solo because there's no reason to have multiple players on this. Because if you're playing multiple players, you're just doing the same turns. Nobody controls any of the characters, really. So you have 2 black event dice, and then you have a bunch of multicolored dice. Each of the multicolored dice represents one of the characters in the Fellowship, like Gimli or Legolas or Aragorn or Pippin, or, then there is actually Frodo and Samwise, and you are trying to get Frodo and Samwise to Mount Doom to throw in the ring. On your turn, you are going to choose 2 of these multicolored dice, and then you have to roll 2 of the event dice as well. You're going to roll these dice. You are going to choose one of the event dice and one of the multicolored dice. The event dice are going to trigger some kind of event. So if you roll a 3 and a 4, and on the bottom it shows the cards that they're going to trigger for these events, you're like, okay, I'll trigger this event rather than this event. Then you're going to choose the multicolored dice, and you're like, okay, I'm going to move green, which is Legolas, and then you put that up. After you choose those ones, then you're going to roll that event dice again, along with choosing another multicolored dice, along with the dice that you didn't choose in the previous selection. So then you're going to roll these 2 multicolored dice, and you're going to choose one of those. You have to choose the event die. You don't get a choice in that one. And then after you've selected them, then you're going to trigger everything. So you're going to trigger the dice from left to right, left bottom, right bottom. And, you do the event. Could be a good or a bad thing. You might get ally cards, which are going to give you special abilities. You're going to trigger the multicolored dice of the character, and you're just going to move that character along the board that many spaces. And there are different events that happen if you land on them, like getting more Nazgul. If you get all of the 8 of the Nazgul out, you lose the game immediately. There are spots that are going to bring the ring health basically down. If you ever have nowhere for the ring to go, you can't go any further bottom, you lose the game immediately. And there is some interesting choices throughout the game. You're basically just trying to combat the bad things that are happening. You have choices of which characters you want to move. You're going to be also battling in this game, and that's also a dice roll. But the battling die, has all of the symbols of all the different characters, along with the Sauron, the symbol. If you roll that, you automatically lose the battle. If you roll any of the other symbols, the character symbols, if they are supporting you in the battle, you win that battle. And they support you in the battle if they are on your space, Frodo and Samwise's space, or in front of them up to a certain distance, basically to the next event circle. If they are behind you, they do not support you. So you roll their dice, you automatically lose that battle. And for a roll and move game, it works really well. It's a fun little puzzle game. But I suggest playing it solo. I do. This is going to get a 7.5 rating. I enjoyed my time playing it, and it's a very hard game. For as simple as this game is, it's a very difficult game to win, actually. It took me, I think, on the 4th try, I finally won this game. So 7.5 for Lord of the Rings Adventures to Mount Doom. Going to the next game. The next game is a small pocket-sized game called Welcome to Reckoning. Like I said, this is a pocket-sized game. In this game, you are going to lay out these cards, and these cards are basically a deck of cards, but they also have events on them. You have to trigger the events from left to right, and most of the events are going to be do bad things. Some of them will do good things. But you're also going to be collecting some of these cards, and you are trying to collect basically 4 of a kind. So get 4 10s in a row, or 4 10s. Then you can go to this one event spot, and you can win the game. But you're constantly battling things and triggering bad things. You have some good abilities that you can use as well by using this, I can't remember what they're called, but you can use these little cards and trigger some abilities that are going to help you gather up cards, remove some bad things that are happening. And it's a fun little game. It's going to get a 7.5 rating. It reminds me a lot to another solo game that I really like called Lost Expeditions. This is almost a smaller, faster version of that game where you're just trying to survive all the bad things that are happening. You're trying to manage it the best you possibly can and drag your feet across that victory line. Yeah, but 7.5 for Welcome to Reckoning. Going to the next game, we go from a small little solo game to a big, giant, epic two-player experience of a game. This is Star Wars Rebellion, and I've only gotten to play this game once, so this is just a first impression. I don't own the game, so I don't know when I'll get to play it again, but I've wanted to play this game for a long time. This is an overarching Star Wars themed game. You are not playing as like the Jedi. It's not like a lightsaber battling game. This is like fleets versus fleets. You know, one player playing as the Rebellion, one player playing as the Empire. You're going to get characters throughout the game, and you're going to use those characters to move your fleet around, to play special cards, trigger special abilities, and it just gives you the Star Wars theme, Star Wars in a box, and that's what a lot of people call this game, is Star Wars in a box. And I had a really good time playing this game, and it is a long game. This game is going to get an 8 rating. And I enjoyed the Star Wars theme. I felt like the Star Wars theme really came out. Some of the things that I didn't particularly like is that it's going to be hard to get this game to the table a lot because it is a long game. It took us 3 hours to play this game, and it's a 2-player game. So do I want to play a long 2-player game? Most of the time I'm not going to be able to. So how often will that hit the table? I don't own the game, but if I did, it would come to the table not as often as I would like, or as much as this game deserves for being a long game. Also, the dice combat is a little more fiddly than I wish it was. It reminds me a little bit of Eclipse in that dice battling, where they're big, long games, where a lot of the outcome of the game is going to be determined by the dice rolling in it, which is fine for a lot of players, but I'm just usually not like a huge dice person for big, long games. But I mean, it was a really exciting game. It held the fun and excitement for most of the game. I ended up finding the Rebellion base. I was playing as the Empire, found the Rebellion base on basically the last possible move that I could make almost for it, and I blew up the Rebellion base and ended up winning. But there was a lot of fun decisions in this game. I had a good time playing this game. So 8 for Star Wars Rebellion. Going on to the next game. The next game is Undaunted Normandy. Now, this was sat on my shelf of shame for a long time. In fact, I just made a video of like the top 10 games on my shelf of shame. And when people saw this, they're like, you need to play this game. Because, I mean, it is a light to medium weight sort of game. In this game, it is a deck building game where you are going to be rolling dice and having like a little bit of a skirmish. One player plays as the allies, the other player plays as the enemy, and you are building up this deck of these characters, and when you get to play these character cards, then you get to trigger that character and basically try and shoot some enemies, maybe move around the board with these tokens. But at the start of each of their turns, what's really fun is you draw a hand of 4, and these cards are numbered. And some of these characters have really, really great abilities, but those are really high numbered cards. You are going to choose one of those cards in your hand to be your initiative. So if you really, really want to go first, you're going to have to use one of these cards just as an initiative card in order to try to go first. So you might have this card that's really great, but you're like, I really need to go first this round. So you're going to play that card as try to get the initiative. And you still might not get the initiative because the other person might play a higher game. But you are basically just going to be building out your deck of these soldiers, the different types of soldiers, your riflemen, snipers, mortars, and you're moving around those and targeting the opponent and rolling dice trying to take them out. And like I said, I didn't really like the dice in Star Wars Rebellion because it's really long, but this is a shorter game for that, half an hour to an hour and a half, depending on which scenarios you're playing, because the book comes with a ton of scenarios. I really enjoyed this. I did. It's going to get an 8 rating as well. I like it a little bit more than Star Wars Rebellion because this one is going to be coming out to the table quite a bit more. And there's a ton of other Undaunted games for this, and then it's wanted me to explore this Undaunted game. It's a really good system, I think. And now I just seen that they're going to come out with an Undaunted, like, in the future, like a space-themed one, which I'm really excited to go try that one now. So 8 rating for Undaunted Normandy. Going to the next game, we have a small little card game. This is Vaalbara. In Vaalbara, you're going to get each player is going to get a deck of character cards, and they are numbered 1 through 12. And you're going to draw 5 cards at the start of every turn. Everybody's going to play one of these cards face down, and at the same time, you're going to reveal the card. The player with the lowest card gets to go first. And what you're going to do on your turn is when you reveal the character card, you do the character card first. And then you are going to draft or take one of these locations that are out there, which if there's 4 players, there's going to be 4 locations that you get to choose from. So you're going to do whatever the character power is, and the lower character powers are usually not as good as the higher character powers. Because if you do the higher character power, you're going to usually go last or almost last, but you're going to get some really cool special ability. And so when you take these location cards, they're going to score you points, and there's a sort of a set collection manner to these, and I think there's 6 different types of locations that you can get. I mean, they're very easy to understand. One of them is like these red cards. If you take this red card, you score 1 point for every red card that you have and your neighbors have. So if you've got 2 red cards and your neighbors have 3 red cards, you immediately score 5 points. Whenever you take the locations, you score immediately. And there's 6 different types of locations, like I said, but they're all very, very simple to understand location cards. And this game is really, really fast. I really enjoyed this game. It's going to get an 8.5 rating. It gives me feels of other games like Citadels or Mission Red Planet, where you have different character abilities. And I just think it's a really good game. I mean, 15 to 20 minutes all this game takes. And you have some fun, interesting things that are happening throughout this game. So yeah, 8.5 for Vaalbara. Going to our last game of this week. This is the 3rd game in the trilogy of these games. This is Horrified Greek Monsters. Now, we had Horrified using the Universal Studio monsters. Now, then we had Horrified using the American cryptids. Now we have Horrified using the Greek monsters, using the Greek mythology. And this is it's a medium lightweight cooperative game that I have really enjoyed in the past. So I was really excited about this one. In this one, it has the Greek mythology on top of it, and you are cooperating to move around this board and take out all of these different monsters. The game comes with 6 different monster types or monsters. Like you have Medusa, you have the Basilisk, you have the Minotaur. You've got 6 different monsters that you can choose from. You can choose to do anywhere from 2 monsters to 4 monsters, depending on the difficulty level. Each of these monsters you're going to defeat in a different way. But most of the time, you're just going to be moving around the board, collecting these different items, and using these specific items to do whatever the objectives are for these monsters. Because all of them are going to be defeated in different, unique ways. And after you take your turn, the monsters are going to activate, move around the board, trying to take you out and creating fear. And you lose if you get so much fear. You win if you defeat all of the monsters before they defeat you and before time runs out, because there's a deck of cards. This feels like a light version of Pandemic to me. I have really enjoyed Horrified over the years, and I love Greek mythology. So of course I was really excited about this game. I like this game. This is my Horrified version that I'm going to go to now. This one's going to get a 9 rating. As far as the monsters go, I felt like Universal Studio monsters were pretty simple and straightforward. Then American Cryptids came out, and they were a lot more difficult and complex to understand. And that's why the Universal Studios one, I was getting to the table more often, because I didn't really want to relearn the American Cryptids all the time, because they had a lot more going on for the monsters. Then the Greek monsters, this one goes back to more of the simpler monsters. One of the negatives for this game is a lot of the monsters are really vague about certain things. Don't get me wrong, they are simple and not complex like at all, really. But there's some vagueness and ambiguity with the rule book that they just don't really go into explaining. And so we kind of just house ruled. I think this is how this works. But they are simple and straightforward other than some vagueness in the rules. But yeah, 9 rating. I really, really enjoyed this version of Horrified. So that will complete this list. Make sure to comment down below your favorite games on this list, if you've played any of them, if you agree with me, if you don't. Either way, if you did enjoy this video, though, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.